Hey artists, welcome back to the sculpture. And I've been a little bit slacking off, so I got my second video for this sculpture, and I made a big mistake on this, and I can't believe it. Like, sometimes you're working on things and you're not paying attention, and one of the things that I did wrong is I put the legs. If you look at the thighs, they're way too long for the body, and I did correct that towards the end, so you will see the correction. But all of these are tough to do. Like, there's no sculpture that is easy. There's always a lot of things, especially with water-based clay. You don't have the armature to support it. So for me, all of these sculptures are a learning process. If you're getting started with sculpture, remember, it's difficult. Everything worth doing is difficult. And I've met a lot of artists who they want like an easy way to do sculpture. There are artists out there on YouTube, and I've watched videos. They're very systematic in the way they build sculptures. I don't do that, very much. I kind of like do every sculpture as if it's my first sculpture ever. So I make a lot of mistakes in everything, but I tend to correct myself over and over. And if you see something wrong with the sculptures, of course, post up in the comments below. I'm more than interested in correcting whatever problems I have here. But this is an interesting pose, and one of the things I've noticed about the reference photos is that there is no front view. So I've been kind of struggling finding other models that have this front view to the photos, because I need that for the chest, for the legs, and not so much the face itself, because I usually am not that interested in sculpting a model's face unless she's very unique. This particular model is not very unique. She's beautiful. Her whole figure is extremely beautiful, but not very inspiring. You often see this in very beautiful women too. They're so beautiful that it doesn't have that inspiring look. I usually like models to look a little bit unique, a little bit asymmetrical. And I think that might be more of a modern idea of art, is to have some quirkiness to, especially the face. But on this, I'm building things slowly. There are parts, for example, the trapezius. If you go bad on this, you build it a little bit too much, then it tends to just simply look too muscular. So this right now, it still has the very long legs, as you can see. You constantly have to wet your sculpture as well, and it really depends on the location that you have your sculpture studio. But she's sitting on that lower leg, so what's happening is that the lower part of the leg or the thigh is expanding because the fat kind of gets spread out, which is very normal. But it's very difficult to see that in photography. So you have to take into account, and actually do that with your arm, bend your arm, and you'll see as you're bending, the fat kind of expands a little bit. No matter how muscular you are, you'll always have a little bit more of an expansion of fat. And of course, female models tend to be a little bit fatter towards the thighs, but that's just very normal. And there's also different planes. So the gluteus medius, maximus, all have planes. And I think what I find in a lot of sculptures is that sculptors don't emphasize the muscles too much. Another issue currently is the knees are too big, but we're going to rectify that by just pushing them down. The back is also very difficult. One of the things that I prefer from reference websites like Postspace is that they give you a lot more high resolution photos, as opposed to the reference that I'm using, which is Female Anatomy for Artists. The head I neglected before because I didn't want to add too much weight to the top. When you're building these water-based clay sculptures, you have to let the clay dry just a little bit, because that is your underlying armature. There are artists that move much quicker, but that's generally my idea. Is like I want things to firm up a little bit, and then I can build with more weight towards the head. This sculpture is not hollow just yet, but that's more a something I'll do once I finish the structure and the gesture. It's a very good pose for doing a marble sculpture if you're a carver. This pose would be great. It's very rigid because it's got a very triangular composition on the base, and you don't need to like worry too much about the clay collapsing on you. Whenever you have a model that's standing, then you have a lot of issues with the engineering part of the sculpture. So on this model, the breasts, you have to kind of figure out the direction. One of the things I've found students have done is that they put the nipples like straight at you, like facing you. And usually nipples and breasts do not face you directly. They're angled outward. And also keep in mind that she has her arms back, positioned back, so that's going to expand that even more. You can emphasize that a little bit more to make it more obvious. But I build everything really slowly. Another thing I'm going to do is just remove a little bit of the fat that I have in the abdominals, because I think it's going to make it look a lot better. Towards this point, I really try to concentrate on making small moves. I try to make things count, if that makes any sense. Every stroke should like make a definition in the structure, but often I make a lot of mistakes. So I try to, on this one, I am trying to make it symmetrical. With the face, that's probably going to be the part that I will struggle with, because if you get the face wrong, everything else is going to look bad on the sculpture. So you should spend a lot of time on the head. The face should have some sort of expression, but in a way, this particular sculpture should be stoic. At least that's my idea behind the sculpture, is like to make it stoic. But there are so many things I could do with it. You know, like I could make it more like goth-like, and I kind of like that idea. I do like simplicity. Sometimes in my older sculptures, I just went overboard with like iconography, and I often think why, but I do find the different subjects I've done fascinating, but I think I'm the only one that finds them fascinating apparently. On this, usually it reaches more people, but that's not the reason I'm doing it. I really do find this pose in particular very beautiful, but artists should try and tell a story, or try and show something, like an emotion, something. And quite frankly, I don't have that idea just yet. I don't know what I'm doing with this. This could be just a study of the female figure. But in a way, sometimes, another thing that I'm doing is that I'm making this a little bit bigger. Before I made it way too small, and it's kind of an issue. Well, that's another session, guys. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you in the next video.